As you know, we're taking a Source to Sea journey, and we made a special stop here in Brattleboro to celebrate David. We're talking about successes and challenges, and a couple months ago we said, well, when we get to Brattleboro, we might want to talk about stormwater as one of the challenges we still confront. So I think maybe we made it rain, so apologies. But thank you all for being hardy and coming out. So today we are celebrating David Deen and going to wish him well. And so there will be plenty of opportunities to give David well wishes and roast or toast or celebrate David. But before that, I wanted to introduce the Source to Sea journey. So this is day 10 of our Source to Sea jump-in journey. The first thing I would like to do is thank all of the Connecticut River Conservancy staff who have been working incredibly hard to make this event come off. We've been planning this for 6 or 7 months. We're doing 17 events in 15 days. And so far no one has threatened to lock me in my office and throw away the key. So all of the staff here, we owe them all a great measure of thanks. Let's give them all a big hand. Jen, Andrew, Stacy Leonard, Corey Kurtz, Alan have all been instrumental, as well as a whole bunch of trustees. So I'm not going to talk about the journey too much, except to say that we began the journey when we hiked up to 4th Connecticut Lake. And so this is the source water. We are bringing this along the journey every step of the way to remind us that the source of the Connecticut is a beautiful place. It's a wetland created by the beavers. It's a tannic wetland, which is why you see that coloration to the water. It's an absolutely lovely spot. We start the journey because at the source, and we bring this water with us to remind us that really good things start small, and really good ideas begin one at a time. And like the tributaries that make the Connecticut ultimately a mighty and great river, as all of us pitch in and weigh in over the decades to make the Connecticut River a better river, a cleaner river, a healthier river, it takes a tremendous amount of people. And our work at the Conservancy is about cooperation and collaboration, as well as doing the work we've done for 65 years. And so one of the things that inspires us is, as we have traveled down the river, is meeting people and agencies and organizations and connecting or reconnecting or meeting them for the first time, knowing that together we can do the work that we've done for 65 years and we will keep doing for 65 years. The red hat. So in 1959, when the journey was undertaken, it was by Dr. Davidson, our board chairman, and he spent a fair amount of money at the time to make a movie about his Source to Sea journey, and he was a very effective publicist. And so as he traveled down the river, he had his red felt crusher that he wore. So we have been donning the red felt crusher at each leg of our journey to remember and thank Dr. Davidson for the work he did in 1959 to set out the course of the work for our organization. One of the cool things, in 1959, as he made that movie, he came into Brattleboro right here. And when he came into Brattleboro in that movie, you can see it on YouTube, he landed in town here and noted, as he came into Brattleboro with the members of the Brattleboro Yacht Club, that the entrance to Brattleboro was significantly marred by the smell of raw sewage entering into the river. And so we have a tremendous success in that there was nothing like Whetstone Station or the opportunity to observe and enjoy our river the way we do now in Brattleboro. So this is one representation of the hundreds of millions of dollars we've spent in wastewater infrastructure to make our river better. We got a lot more to do. You guys in this audience know that we have many more challenges. So we're looking forward to our next 65 years. If you'd like to follow the journey, of course, it's on social media and other places. Tomorrow we're heading down to the Oxbow, and we will be water skiing. The next day we'll be dragon boating, we will be rowing, we will be floating, we will be bass boating, we will be paddling, and finally on Sunday we will sail into Long Island Sound on the Unrust, a replica of Adrian Block's vessel, the first European to make it up the Connecticut River. So that's the journey. Thanks for being part of all the work over the last 65 years and sticking with us. So let's talk a little bit about David.
Well, David helped hire me back when I joined the Watershed Council, now Conservancy, in 2003. So now I've worked with David almost more than 13 years, albeit from afar, since I'm in the Greenfield office, David was in a home office. We kind of said goodbye to 3 other river stewards in that time, and all of them had different personalities and ways of going about doing things or doing the job, and David included. And even though he likes to, or he often described himself as a grumpy guy, there are a lot of things that are true that I admire about David. So I just wanted to say a couple of those things. One is your work ethic. You described one time in a job interview with somebody else that being a river steward was not a job but a way of life. And you know, as you juggled basically 3 jobs, the river steward, state legislator, and being a river guide, you know, weekends, evenings, vacations were fluid, and seemed like there was always some big Vermont Yankee filing that had to be done during Texas vacation or something, and you were just always on the job. Also, your ability to boil things, you know, issues and opinions down into kind of a sound bite that people can, you know, relate to. I think that's a great quality. I'm not very good at that. Your also ability to advocate for a position very strongly, but in a way that, you know, you aren't being a jerk about it. And,
Quiet.
well, sure, you might piss people off, but I still, you know, think that you had a real clear sense of what's right in the world and what's fair, and you want to make sure you try to get to that point. So, also your sense of humor, and also we enjoyed, I think, in the office getting all those emails over the years of critters you observed at your office. You know, the baby skunks, the turkey family, the phoebes making a nest in your house somewhere, the bears, visits, and all that stuff. So, you know, we'll definitely miss you, and wish you the best of luck in being a legislator and everything else.
So I've been here for 6 years, and I've also had the opportunity now twice to speak about David as far as his retirement. So some of you may have heard this before. So when I started, or when I work with people, one of the first questions I ask is, what do you need from me? Or what do you want from me? And what David said to me was, what I need from you is to leave me alone. And I didn't. And I think I'm exceedingly happy that I didn't, because I've said this before. David taught me a tremendous amount in 6 years about how to be an advocate, about how to be passionate, about how to be persistent. The example of arguing pro se in front of the Public Service Board about Vermont Yankee, we didn't have money for an attorney. David said, I'll do it, right? And so to be able to jump in a complicated administrative hearing and be your own lawyer and fight the fight, we didn't win, but that wasn't daunting, you know? So David was able to really demonstrate how to be an effective advocate, and how to be an effective advocate in a community of people that you're going to see in many different ways. Small town New England is all small towns. We are always going to see each other in many different ways. I have a gift for David, and what this represents is, you guys all know he writes the River Currents column, right? And so David is a very good historian and is very interested in telling the stories of the Connecticut River. And one of the stories he told in the River Currents column was about Connie the river monster, right? And so David did his work and determined that yes, there was credible evidence that the Connecticut River does in fact have a river monster, Connie, like Lake Champlain and Champe. Well, he's used to being excoriated for taking these opinions, and so many people gave him a tremendous amount of grief. David's allies in the world rushed to his defense, and we received information. People ran to the archives to try and defend David's position that yes, in fact, there was Connie the river monster. And so we received in the office from an archival search that documented proof that in fact there is a river monster. And so we went and got this framed. And so this is a map from the 19th century of Bellows Falls, Vermont, that does in fact prove the fact that there is Connie the river monster. And so I think the other thing it represents to us is that, David, you in fact have taken on many monsters in your career and have fought to beat back the many monsters that have affected our rivers, and you have been incredibly successful. So we hope that the monsters you have fought do not return. So thank you for many years of service. Go for it. Go.
Okay. So some of you have heard this before. I'm Jeanette White, and I have been a friend of David's for a long time. And now you all think of him as being a relatively sophisticated, good guy. Let me tell you how he got to Vermont. So in 1972, my husband and I were going to move to Vermont, and David hitched a ride with Bill, came up to Vermont, and here he was, no job, no nothing, two little kids with him, about, what were they, about 4, 7?
6, 7.
6, 7. So we've always considered that, and in this crowd, this is probably a good thing, in some crowds it's not such a good thing, is that if we have given nothing else to the state of Vermont, we've given David to the state of Vermont. Now you probably, I've told this in some areas where they stoned me actually. But, so David came up here, and we had just purchased 30 acres with friends, and David and his 2 kids, Bill lived in a tent for 3 months, I was still in Illinois, and David and his 2 kids set up this, what would you call it?
Yeah.
It wasn't Romany, and it wasn't, it was, so one wall had a blue tarp, one wall had an American flag, there was a blue tarp on the top, there was a little hole here with a toilet seat on it, and he and his 2 kids lived there for 2.5 months. 2.5 months out in the woods while he figured out what he was going to do in Vermont. So we brought him here, so you can thank David for his input, but please thank us also.
The final irony of that story is I live closer to the land where we all started in Vermont than they do now. And it was their land.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, we still live in West. They've got Wanderlust. They moved 8 miles, 9 miles down the road, all the way down to Pleasanton. So, I tell people all the time, the politician walks in front of you without written comments to control the urge to talk, get up and leave. So, I just want to take this opportunity to talk about being a river steward. It's not something that you can do on your own. It takes teamwork with partners, many of whom are here in the room this evening, representing both this organization, the Conservancy, as well as other river organizations. Barbara from the Ashwila Local Advisory Committee, the Connecticut River Joint Commissions, there were a couple of regional planning commissions, the Southeast Vermont Watershed Association. These are the partners that you have to work with in order to be successful. And now that I'm standing in front of you and have your attention, I just want to say, give politics a chance. Washington is a disaster, and I think we can all agree on that. We thank our lucky stars for people like Vermont and New Hampshire's national delegations, Leahy, Sanders, Welsh, Custer, Shaheen, Hassan. They have a tough job making progress in the ever-growing swamp, but we are at least sure that they care about people and the environment. And as I was writing this, I suddenly realized that I want to make a change in the rhetoric. Swamps are wetlands, and wetlands are vital links in ecosystems of rivers. Let's call the White House and the majority in Congress by a more exact name. It is a cesspool. And for those of you who may be too young to know what a cesspool is, it is a big hole in the ground that collects shit.
They're still legal in Rhode Island.
Okay, with that said, what are we going to do about it? Here's an idea. What if you were the representative from your district? What if you were the senator from your county? What if you were a select board member? What if you were a planning commission member? Do you think that might help spread the message that the economy depends on a healthy environment? That's not a rhetorical question, folks. From my perspective, the answer is yes. It does. Public service does make a difference. And why is that important at this time? The 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says, powers not delegated to the United States by this Constitution are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution about water, nor the public trust doctrine that controls what can happen with water. That's why our water quality standards in Vermont and New Hampshire are written and applied by each of the states. Your role at the state level will be persuasive in deciding how Vermont and New Hampshire will control the waters of their state. Our water quality is in your hands. It's still in your hands despite what's happening in Washington. And where might this play out? Think about the relicensing of the hydro dams, Vernon, Bellows Falls, Wilder. On the main river, that licensing process is going on right now, and FERC issues the license to the dams and decides how they should run. But that license must incorporate the terms and conditions of state-issued water quality certification. That certification is based on the state water quality standards, adopted under state law. The River Conservancy, in the person of Kathy Herfer, where are you, Kathy? There. Will be sitting in on those proceedings to stand up for your interests. And having said that, of course, I've just introduced Kathy, who is river steward, who will be replacing me with the Conservancy. If you don't choose to become formally involved with government in any way, shape, or form, and I can understand some of the hesitation on the part of people who might not want to do that. It's a lot of work, just as a first barrier. Then consider getting involved with groups like the Connecticut River Conservancy. And how do you do that? Well, you can become a member. That's the basic entree point. But in addition, one of the sort of informal groups around me is what I call my eyes and ears. And they were just people who knew me, like Annette Spaulding, who saw things like sweeping sand and whatever off of a bridge into the Connecticut River, and she called me up. All right, so you can volunteer to become eyes and ears. Give Kathy and Ron Rhodes, who is the North Country River Steward, a call and alert them to what's going on. believe me, they'll take action. So I'm advocating for get involved, stay involved, start now, just do it all the time. And you can do it either by becoming involved with the governmental process or by becoming involved with organizations like the Connecticut River Conservancy. There are also people, Barbara Scully and others that I've named, who can tell you how to get involved in their areas in terms of interest of people in watershed work. And so with that, I'll give up my opportunity to talk with all of you and encourage, involvement. We still control our water quality standards. And don't give up on that simply because Washington's in disarray. Thank you.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ron Rhodes, as David just said. I wouldn't have my job if it weren't for this guy. When the job was posted, he emailed me or called me, I forget which, and said, you need to apply for this job. And I looked at it and I realized he was right. And ever since the day I was hired, I've relied on him. He's held my hand, showed me the ropes, and I couldn't be doing what I'm doing today without him. So thank you.
Okay. I'm going to tell your story, Kathy. 13 years ago, I get a telephone call. A woman by the name of Kathy Erfer calls me up and says, hey, can we sit down and talk? So I said, sure. And we set up, I think it was at Father's Restaurant up in Bellows Falls, and had a cup of coffee. She came into town. She came out of New Jersey, out of a River Keepers program, and wanted to start a River Keepers program here on the Connecticut River. And as any good organizer, she went around and started talking with people about this and that, and River Keeper and whatever. And everybody told her, you got to go talk to David Deen. And so we talked. She decided that there was a River Keeper program in place, and there was no need for. She went off, got married, had kids, developed a profession, got an award for being a sterling administrator, and then I decided to retire, and her article in the newspaper said, that's my job. So 13 years later, she comes back, she applies for the job, she is successful. I am thrilled that she's here. My first email message to her was, your stubbornness bodes well for the river.
So I'm kind of a newbie to the Connecticut River. I'm from the Mid-Atlantic originally, but I work for the Appalachian Mountain Club. We've met a few times, but Kristen Sykes. But I'm actually here on behalf of Ken Kimball, who's our Director of Research, who is fighting the good fight on Northern Pass and duking it out with the lawyers. So he couldn't be here, but he wanted me to pass on his regards, David. So he says, best wishes. He wants to put forth that AMC has enjoyed and highly respects the role that David has played in being the key person to move the 15 Mile Falls Settlement Agreement from a concept to meeting its intended goals. He brought leadership, integrity, a work ethic, and on-the-ground knowledge to the table on how these funds could maximize their benefits to the Connecticut River. All packaged in a first-class individual who has a great love for the river. So, congratulations.
Thank you. That's great. Can I have that or send it to you? Ken, in case you don't know him, or AMC, national leader in hydro reform efforts. He operates out of northern New Hampshire in the middle of virtually nowhere, north of the White Mountains. I didn't know there was anything up there, but there is. And Ken lives there. But he has a national reputation and has a national leadership role in terms of hydroelectric reform. So I am pleased.
Anybody else?
Hey, Michael.
I'm going to ask Maria to turn the camera off.
We want the dirt.
I've learned more about rivers, and I should say I'm Mike Murwicki, and for the last 11 years, I've been David's district mate in the Vermont House of Representatives. And I've learned more about the rules of the House, how to get a bill passed, about the river and water, because David has been fighting for all water below the surface, on top of it. And there's a practical part to David, though, that I wanted to share. And he's been a great mentor in ways that some other people might not understand. And I'll just give you a quick example. My first day in the legislature, David said, "Watch out in the bathroom. The sinks are covered with water. Don't lean against it." Because the last thing you want on your first day in the legislature is to walk around with a wet spot in the front of your pants. Nobody writes that in the book, but it's true. You go in there and guys are slobs anyway, and there's water everywhere. It's clean water, but it's everywhere. And alongside that, though, what you might not know is this is the real dean of the house. Because David is the person who keeps us in line. He knows the rules of the house as well as anybody. And as soon as somebody crosses that line, you'll see somebody in the back row stand up and say, "Madam Speaker, point of order." And usually they sigh and they say, "Member from Westminster, what is your point of order?" Inevitably, of course, he's right. And he keeps us on track in the legislature the way he keeps things on track on the river and otherwise. And it's been my honor and pleasure to serve alongside him for now the past 11 years.
I just want to say, I don't even know where to start, but I try to make it quick. Many years, for about 30 years, I've been a volunteer. I'm a scuba diver. I'm also an accountant. And I kept seeing these incredible articles in the newspaper written by a person by the name of David Deen about the preservation of the Connecticut River, the history of the Connecticut River, on and on and on. And then one day I looked at the bottom of the article and saw that he was a member of the Connecticut River Watershed Council. And I said, you know, I'm going to have to get in touch with this guy and start talking to him about all the things I'm finding under the water that I want to remove and see if he has any ideas what to do. So I called David and I asked David, I found a propane tank, or I found something that doesn't look right that's leaching into the river, or these guys are building this bridge and they're spraying all this toxic stuff into the river. And David always came back immediately with a solution, got it removed, got it stopped. And I really feel that this man is so vital to what we see now, this health of this river, the total reversal from 30 years ago to now. And I love the river, and I love this guy's commitment, and I'm so proud to know you, and thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Mary. Hanover. Talk about a long trip.
Well, it was my history for a long time.
Yeah, that was.
We have served on the Joint River Commissions for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I felt an obligation, even though it was a lousy day, to get here. And I'm very happy I'm here, having been in Spitsbergen about 48 hours ago.
Spitsbergen.
Yes.
Where?
It's a 3.5-hour jet flight north of Oslo.
Goodness, wow.
Anyway, I was a little question
Yeah,
but I was
yeah,
going to
you did make it or
but
not,
anyway, you've done such a wonderful job with the river and with the commissions and keeping everything together for all of us. And thank you for working with the state of Vermont to help the river.
Thank you, Mary. Uh-oh. Am I in trouble?
I'm just donning my.
Oh, okay.
Looking old in the new.
Oh! I got the
So, David told part of the story.
You're gonna get drowned out here in a second.
Oh, should I wait? I can talk louder. I can talk louder. So, when I moved here, I will wait. I'll wait.
Hey, this is your town.
13 years for the job, you could wait a
so
little bit.
So David basically told the outside edges of my story, right? When I moved here very explicitly wanting to move to a place where I was going to be part of the community, stay in the community, and specifically I wanted to work to protect the environment. And if that environment especially included water, that was my hope. So yes, I came here with the plans to start the Connecticut River Keeper program. And found the existing Watershed Council and found that everyone I spoke to told me that David was the person I needed to go talk to. And that first conversation, I was struck with graciousness and openness and a familiarity of spirit that really made me feel at home and ready to dig in wherever I could. Simultaneously, I was thinking, God damn it, this guy has my job. So shit, what am I gonna do? And David, said, well, look to the, West River Watershed Alliance, they need help, and look to the Connecticut River Joint Commission, maybe there's something there, and go work with the Wyndham Regional Planning Commission. And I did all those things and continued over the years to try to find my place. Well, over those 10 years, David doesn't realize this, I think, but he has been a continual mentor to me. As I have been doing the work that I could as a volunteer, his articles in the paper, when I was at Antioch, thinking about the public trust doctrine and doing research, there was David introducing legislation. Every step of the way, the work he has done has shown up and shown me an example of the continued effort that we need and the accomplishments that we can continue to garner. So, we were talking in the beginning, when I learned he was retiring, I really felt like, oh my God, here's my job. And I have to say, I feel if I can do half of what you've done, I will feel incredibly successful. And I really look to you as a great mentor. And I'm so grateful to follow in your footsteps.
Thank you.
There's a lot more food and a lot more beer, so please stay and socialize. Give David thanks, grief, and the like. He's got big shoulders. One of the things that David said when we said we would like to honor him with this retirement party, he said, fine, you can do that, but make sure you raise some money. We have many supporters in the room, for which we are immensely grateful. Like all of us, we have many choices where we put our money and where we invest our hard-earned dollars. I would ask you to continue to support the Conservancy. If you've not supported us before, please do. Our board said 6 years ago, grow this organization into the scope of its mission, and we are working very hard to do that, and we do it in collaboration and cooperation with others. Your dollars work very hard at this organization. We have a tremendous docket in front of us, whether it's the hydropower relicense, 5 simultaneous licenses up for renewal. We have 26 ongoing restoration projects. That includes, I think, as of today, 11 dam removals.
It'll be 12 on Thursday.
Maybe 12 on Thursday. 4 of those dam removals will be done this year. That's an unprecedented amount of restoration projects for us. And for a small organization, we're doing a tremendous amount of work, and there is a tremendous amount more to do. So, please heed David's wish. We have information on the back table there, but otherwise, no leftovers, and there's plenty of beer at the taps.
Everybody take an envelope.
Thank you very much for coming today. Please stay and socialize.